is the City ADC channel? No. Am I incredibly hyperfixated on TADC and want to tell everyone about all my theories? Yes. I'm just gonna yap about all the theories I have before episode 8 and 9. Okay, theory 1. We all interpreted Jax saying people aren't pleasant to be around when they're going to abstract, because they're really rude and withdrawn and not pleasant people. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if they get really touchy and really close, and it could be that it's different for all of them, because obviously Kaufmo wasn't talking to them, and then Jax was like just being more of a a-hole. A stream, I believe it was a stream. I think it was Zubal's VA. Ashley, she said, using knowledge that I have about Ribbit that you guys don't, I'm going to go with Smash. This is a Smash or Pass of all the TADC characters. She said Smash for Ribbit using knowledge we don't have. What if Ribbit was just getting really freaky towards Jax when she was going to abstract? It adds to why Jax is afraid to get close to people, because he knows that being close to people is a sign of someone abstracting, and he doesn't want that to happen. It's not particularly important to the plot, I just think it's, funny. This is a more common theory, and I'm kind of half and half on it, because I feel like it could be another one of Gooseworks' false leads, red herrings, but it also could be an actual thing. I think Kinga could be Abel. He would have known who Abel was, because he was in the dark when they were talking about it, but he didn't remember an Abel. And you know what they can't remember? Their names. The reason he couldn't remember an Abel is because he is Abel. Now, this is kind of why I think it could be a red herring, because it's kind of one of those things that Goose likes to make red herrings out of. When in the Spudsies' adventure, when Kinga went on his own adventure, he got an A+, and he was riding a bull. A+ bull equals Abel, which could be sort of like a thing where it's like, oh, you look back and it makes sense, but it could also just be a red herring. The bowling ball Jax had in episode 1 means something. I don't know what it means, I don't know why it's there, but it does. Nothing in the show is there for no reason. It didn't have any comedic effect, so it's got to actually mean something. It was also on the backing of his pin on the official TADC merch, and I feel like it's there for a reason. Now, we know that we have the line, "It's you," in episode 9, I believe, and I think that the bowling ball has something to do with Kaufmo, Ribbit, and Jax, maybe Pomni included if Ribbit does turn out to be Pomni. He was saying, "Thanks for keeping an eye on this for me, Coffee. I'm calling it now. There is something more to that bowling ball. I sound crazy. I sound insane. There is something more to it. It's not just a regular bowling ball for no reason. I'm telling you." Why Pomni could be Ribbit. We know that Gooseworks wants to have a reveal of a character turning out to be another character. And that's probably the "it's you" line. It could be that Pomni is Ribbit, but it's also quite obvious, and we know that Gooseworks hates for us to be able to predict things. But on the other hand, they have really similar voices. They have pretty similar appearances, other than Ribbit's a frog and Pomni's a jester. Now, in episode 7, when we're looking at the plan that Abel has for escaping the circus, now all of the things I'm about to say could be completely false, because it was created by Kane, and he's talking about his world building skills, so it could be completely false, but it also could be just extra info. And I feel like there's a bunch of things on here that no one is pointing out, so I'm gonna put them up on screen, and then I'll go through them. Now, it says number of lucid subjects with a rubbed out 7. What? This was definitely created after Kaufmo abstracted, like, long enough after that it wouldn't have been when Kaufmo was here. Why did they put 7? There's only 6 currently of the main cast, So why would they have written 7? I don't think it was just like a random thing. I think it means something. I think there's something to it. Maybe one of the people that we think is an AI or an NPC, maybe Abel, is actually a human. But of lucid subjects. This means that the abstracted aren't, they just aren't lucid. So there could be a way to bring them back. Kinga isn't lucid most of the time. Kinga is like in a crazy state. Maybe that has something to do with it. On the list of old CNA co-workers, Kalfmo is listed there. Kalfmo was a CNA worker? It says co-workers. Co-workers? Whoever made that worked with them, which could mean that Abel was actually a human up until a certain point. I'm gonna sound so delusional right now. Jax did not kill a child. I refuse to believe that my baby a child. We can see in the flashbacks that he was driving on the right side of the road. The correct side of the road, I mean. And there was no cars coming his way. There was no one in front of him. There was a little, like, gleam, but I think that was sort of a reflection of some kind. It didn't look like a car headlights or anything. And the only evidence that I have to support that he would have killed a child would be the warning there are kids, don't speed, whatever that sign said in the first flashback. That could mean that it could be a red herring, or it could show that Jax was a child when he entered the circus. The only other thing is that Goose said, we haven't seen the worst thing Jax has done yet, but that could mean anything. When Zubul asked him if he had anyone waiting for him outside of the circus, he said yeah, in a really, like, upset, annoyed voice. I think this means that he does have someone, but he doesn't want to see them. He would have been like, I don't need anyone, or something like that if he didn't. Jax has some fragile masculinity issues going on. I don't think his room is childish because he's a child. I think that's cruel beyond Kane. We know Zubul's room is sort of the mirrors and stuff because they're insecure of their changing parts and stuff. So I think that Jax's room is all girly because he's insecure and has fragile masculinity issues, which is also why he was so mad about the maid dress. On a stream, Gangle's VA says, the circus takes away everything I love. What if she means that the circus takes away Zubul? What if Zubul is gonna abstract? It could just be a joke, but I mean, if someone's gonna abstract, who knows? In episode 7, Bubble almost says a beach party, but instead says a freaking beach party. Maybe he's becoming more with Kane, more with the circus. He's implementing himself more. He's becoming less of, like, a harmful virus or something like that. Ignore how I changed masks, that one was getting itchy. But anyways, at the end of episode 7, Kane is talking about have a fragrant light. He meant to say something else, like have a good night or something. He says the word light because he's trying to make Kinga forget. He's focused on the fact that there's light there, but Kinga remembered. He was purposefully making Kinga forget. And he also mixes up the word fragrant and stagnant, which is kind of, it's like he wants them to be stagnant in the circus. This was another commenter, I put that there. They explained it better than me. And Pomni says at the end, so it was all and then Kane interrupts, an adventure, yes. When he says yes, a goofy sound effect plays. This is kind of far-fetched, but what if that means he's lying? What if it wasn't actually an adventure? What if it was real up until a certain point? Maybe it's because they went into Kane's office. Even if Abel is a human, he can't be Abel, because he shouldn't be able to remember his name. I think either Kane came up with it because he thought of it from the Bible and he's like, oh, I'm Kane, so this guy can be Abel, and then that's why he kills him and stuff. He just, like, took inspo from the Bible, I guess. Or he remembers an Abel from CNA, and that could also be, like, He's trying to impersonate that Abel, which is also why he wrote co-workers on the plan. He says, yeah, I thought it'd be cool. Bubble causes abstraction. We all have now figured out Bubble is probably a virus because of the Bubble Boy virus. But what if abstraction is some sort of virus, which is why Kane doesn't have a proper mechanism to cope with them and just shoves them in the cellar? Bubble has become a part of Kane. So that's why when Calhoun abstracted, Kane's like, what happened here? Oh yeah, my doing. Moving on to theories that I haven't fully developed. Hopefully you guys can help me out in the comments. I've got a few of these. One is Ragatha, when talking about if they'll be able to bring the abstracted with them, or something. It was something to do with the abstracted when talking about getting out of there. She specifically mentions Kaufman and Ribbit. This could be because they're the latest abstracted, but it also could be that she had something to do with Kaufman, Ribbit, and Jax's little group. She was probably the one taking the pictures, but she definitely had some sort of involvement with them. She says in a previous episode she thinks she failed Jax, which is like also adding to her connection to their group. Gangle also says when she's referring to the admin passes, why does it look like that? And maybe this means she knows something, because I've seen other people theorizing that Gangle is more important than we think because she's such a small character. Abel also says that King has a lot of wisdom when he uses it responsibly. He also says, I made a promise, when he's looking at the hot dog lockets when they're talking about Kinga. He says that he would love to be able to talk to him and stuff, but he's made a promise. What happened between Abel, Kinga, and Scratch? Kinga, Scratch, and Kane. Something happened between those three. The floor of the circus, it's checkered, but it's also black and white, like a chessboard. Which you could argue it's just a circus. But if it's black and white and it's a checkerboard, then it probably has something to do with chess. And obviously, Kinga and Queenie are chess pieces. So maybe they co-created the circus. It says Kane and Abel. Maybe that was what they originally planned to call the circus, or their AIs. Either there was a second AI called Abel, which either turned out to be Abel, or maybe it was Bubble. I've seen people say that maybe Bubble could be Abel. I think Bubble's just virus. We all think that Queenie was this like completely sane motherly figure, but what if she was crazy, like Kinga? Because we know that they had the pillow fort when Queenie was around. What if they were both a bit, cray-cray? King has probably been like this before Queenie's abstraction, so maybe Queenie was too. Or maybe she wasn't because she abstracted, and being crazy is probably like what kept King going. But when Jax is abstracting, his pupils are swirls. This could just be because he's at an earlier stage in the abstraction. But when people are abstracted, they don't have swirls in their eyes. They just have layers and layers of colours. Maybe he wasn't actually abstracting. Maybe this was something else, something similar. Maybe it was something to do with just Ribbit. When they're abstracting, they see old friends reaching out for them. What if they didn't have those friends? Who would have pulled Ribbit? And like for the first abstracted, I think Jax might have not actually been abstracting. I think it could have been something else. My final theory, Funny Bunny will be canon! Funny Bunny will be canon, guys. Trust. I'm not delusional. Trust. Funny Bunny will be canon. Funny Bunny will be canon.